Episode 10 is brought to you by the following Big Dog Tier members: Mariah Mootspaw, Carrie Brooke, Faith Adams, Darlene Keene, Heather Edison, Tina Lance, Brittany Harris, and Christina Cowman. Are you looking to be more involved in the Dog Pound community? If so, please visit patreon.com/dogwithabone. For just $1 a month, you can help support Dog with a Bone's mission. Please visit our page to learn about the multiple tiers that will give you access to behind-the-scenes content, outtakes, documents, photos, videos, and live monthly events with me. I thank you for your continued support and consideration. Warning: this episode contains adult content and listener discretion is advised. All views and opinions expressed by Dog with a Bone guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the host or the contributors. Everyone, and welcome back to Dog with a Bone. If you have not already, please join our Dog with a Bone discussion Facebook page, where you can meet other listeners and discuss the episodes as we move through the season. There will be a ton to talk about. Also, if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to Dog with a Bone on Spotify or wherever you listen, so you get notified when episodes are released. Earlier in this season, we heard from the firefighters, witnesses that were on scene, Sheriff Stanforth, and Dr. Harshberger. We also dug into Marianne, William, Jamie, and Kenny, who were all in the home during the night of the fire. We learned about the extensive abuse, both sexually and physically, that happened to multiple children who were around these individuals. Another major discovery was that Kenny's brother-in-law, Mike Stiegel, was a deputy sheriff for Fayette County Sheriff's Office. So in this second part of the investigation, I'm going to dig into and uncover what happened during the day Mackenzie was murdered, and then looking into the days, months, and years following the murder to just get a better understanding of what type of investigation, and I use that word very loosely, did Fayette County even do. It is so critical in any homicide investigation that you dig into the victim's life at least 24 to 48 hours before the murder. I have actually found it's more helpful to go back even a week before a murder, as things begin to build and can show how things are changing around the victim that led to their eventual death. April 26th was a school day, and I wanted to contact Mackenzie's third grade teacher, who was Mrs. Zimmerman. I know teachers are a great source of information. Teachers spend so much time with their students, and they are often the ones to spot signs and clues on what might be happening at home to their students. I could not wait to talk to Mrs. Zimmerman and what she remembers about Mackenzie. What Mrs. Zimmerman started off telling me shocked me at first, but then it also confirmed what we have already suspected all along regarding the lack of the investigation into Mackenzie's homicide.
I think it's interesting that I was never interviewed by the Sheriff's Department.
Really?
Really. I was never interviewed by anybody until probably 10 years ago. I had a private investigator, kind of like you, what you're doing. He came and talked to me 2 or 3 times. He was a former deputy, and he does cold cases.
Wow.
And he came down and talked a couple times, and that's the first anybody has ever interviewed me.
That's crazy to me.
I thought that was just, like a lot of things people would say, I'm sure you already told this to the Sheriff's Department. I'm like, no, I didn't, because nobody talked to me.
Teachers are so wonderful with knowledge. And if anything, a lot of kids confide in their teachers, and that's the first place.
And we spend a lot of time with kids.
Here is another individual who should have been one of the first people that the sheriff's office interviewed to learn more about Mackenzie. What was happening that day? Did Mackenzie seem worried? Were there any red flags? But that didn't happen. This is why I use the word investigation loosely. In 2023, I found that education personnel were responsible for 21% of all child abuse and neglect reports, making them actually one of the highest reported professional groups alongside legal and law enforcement. This shows how critical teachers are in identifying and reporting suspected abuse of children. Teachers are mandated reporters. I just don't understand, again, how the sheriff's office did not think it would be important to talk to Mackenzie's teacher. I asked Mrs. Zimmerman, what kind of student was Mackenzie?
From what I remember, she was always very outgoing. We were a small town, small school, and she talked to everybody, made friends easily, and always just had a smile on her face. If I remember correctly, she struggled a little in reading, but always worked hard. She always gave a lot of effort. It didn't come easy, but she always tried.
Donald says this too, that Mackenzie was not afraid to work hard and she loved school. April 26th was a special day at school and Mackenzie was very excited. Why? Because it was picture day.
I specifically remember the picture I believe that you have on your Facebook page. That was the day before she died. We had pictures the day before. She was super excited. She had that new dress.
Aww.
And I remember her coming in and being super excited about that, about having a new dress.
Oh, that's so exciting. And then she left school that day. There was nothing that stood out to you different from her that day?
No, nothing stood out.
She seemed the regular old Mackenzie, excited for picture day.
Yes.
There is something I just want to point out here. As I was writing this episode and listening back to it, I remember Donald telling me that the photographer from Downtown Photos who had taken the school photo, when Donald went in to get the photos blown up of Mackenzie, he had stopped Donald and he said, "Wait a minute, I want to tell you something. The first photo that I took of Mackenzie, she would not smile for me. She would not smile for the camera. He had to tell a joke or something for her to smile, which is the photo that you now see." A light bulb went off for me. Is it possible that now we know Jamie was taking photos of Hazel, that again he was taking photos of Mackenzie? So when Mackenzie saw a camera, she was told not to smile or she wasn't happy about her photo being taken. I brought this up to Donald and he was like, "Wait a minute, now that you mention this, I had taken her to Chuck E. Cheese on April 6th and she would not smile." And the one thing about Mackenzie is prior to her going to live with Marianne, Mackenzie was always smiling for the camera. Just something to think about. And then she went home and then that fire started that night.
Yes, I believe it was that night.
Okay. My heart broke when I realized the photo that I have on Facebook and the one that everyone uses and sees all the time when talking about Mackenzie's case is the photo that was taken the day that she was murdered. I asked Mrs. Zimmerman, how did she find out about the fire?
That next morning, I got a phone call from my principal very early. And he just had told me that Mackenzie had passed away in a house fire, that there had been a fire.
And what was your immediate thought?
I remember just almost going to my knees, just didn't even hardly register, like it couldn't be true. It just did not seem real. And just thinking, how do I even face the class? How do I talk to them and tell them, and things going through your head, trying to think ahead.
Well, kind of trying to process it yourself. I mean,
Right.
She was there excited for picture day, and then what happened, and now you got a bunch of kids, third graders, trying to sort through that.
Exactly.
Did you go to the funeral, the wake?
Yes.
What was that like?
Horrible. I remember a lot of my kids from school came that day. They came to the funeral as well. I went to school that morning, and I left early to go to the funeral, and several of the kids went as well. I just remember the pictures, and a lot of my kids were sitting there, and it was just devastating.
I can't even imagine. As a teacher, you love your kids every year, and you love them, and then this happens.
I hardly even remember. After the funeral and coming back, I hardly remember the rest of that year.
Yeah. It was a struggle to get by? Just trying to... It was. Yeah.
But, I mean, for me and for the kids and everybody, it was just a struggle. And I remember our school counselor had met with me that morning, because I'm like, how do I do this? And she had brought in a big stuffed bear, and we kept that in her seat for the rest of the year.
Oh, my God.
I remember that. Kids would write notes or draw pictures, and they would leave them on that desk.
Oh.
I remember her bringing that bear in very specifically.
That's a really sweet... I can't imagine. And then every time you're teaching, you say the bear. That would be very difficult.
Yeah. But it did help the kids. It helped, I think, just to be able to draw a picture or write her a note and leave it there.
As a licensed clinical social worker, I have to tell you, I love this intervention. What an amazing thing this counselor did for the teacher and students to show that Mackenzie was not forgotten and that she was going to be present as they finished out the school year. Before we ended our call, I wanted to ask Miss Zimmerman if she noticed any red flags regarding Mackenzie while she was in her school. And she said she didn't notice anything unusual. I could just hear the sadness in her voice. She has been double-guessing herself for 19 years as she looks back. Did she miss anything? Were there red flags? But I do want to point out that Miss Zimmerman only had Mackenzie in her classroom for about 4 months, not since the beginning of the school year. Mackenzie had transferred to her school after the Christmas break. So Miss Zimmerman did not have a lot of time with Mackenzie. But what's important is that Mackenzie had an impact on her and all the kids in her classroom. And what I mean by this is I've heard this story over and over again, and I just love it so much that Mackenzie would help other kids at school, and she would give them money so that they could buy ice cream. And it was on our second trip to Jeffersonville when Mary and I stopped by at the Jeffersonville Fire Department to speak to the firemen there, and by chance, we got to meet one of the kids that Mackenzie gave money to. Meet Jacob.
She was very nice and outgoing. I tell people this all the time. So, the day before she died, we went to school. A friend of mine and another kid, we always sit at lunch together, and we didn't have enough money to buy ice cream. It was 50 cents for a push pop. And so she gave both of us 50 cents. And so we went and got our push pop. And when we came back to school the next day, we had our money and she wasn't there.
And how sweet of her, because she didn't have money.
Exactly. Like I said, that's what's always stuck with me. The fact that she wouldn't have had money any other time, and she gave us that money, and then she was gone the next day.
That night she was killed.
Yeah, it was terrible.
That was the day that this all happened?
Yes. So the next day at school, so they had counselors and everything in there, so we all made cards to put with her. And my card, I take my 50 cents in and gave it to her, and it was buried with her.
Hearing this story hit Mary and me very hard. We were excited that we found one of the kids, of course by accident, who Mackenzie gave money to. And the fact that the boys came the next day to give back her 50 cents and had found out that she had died is just heartbreaking. Mackenzie, from everyone that I've talked to, had a great day at school with her friends and teacher. Mackenzie loved school because she felt safe. she was safe from the abuse that she faced until that dismissal bell rang. And when that bell rang, Mackenzie would make her way home. Oftentimes, Mackenzie would go outside and play with her friends who lived right next door to her grandparents' house. I was contacted by a woman named Tanya, who was a neighbor to the Potters, and Mackenzie would come over to play with her daughters after school. We got on the phone and she told me what she remembered of that day. You lived right next to them on Maple Street.
Yes, I lived on 33 Maple Street.
Okay.
We lived right down the sidewalk. It's like not even a quarter of a mile down where Mackenzie lived at.
So Mackenzie was at your house?
Yes, well, she was there all day. That was a normal thing because her and Monica, my oldest daughter, were about the same age. They were only like maybe 7 months apart in age. And she was always at Grandma and Grandpa's house. And whenever she was there, she was at my house.
Did they go to the same school then?
Yes. The little Jeffersonville Elementary, but they've tore it down since then.
Tell me what you remember about her.
Oh, she was a little spitfire. She was spunky. She was the sweetest little thing. And she was like a mother hen type.
I think that's her personality, having grown up and being that mother role that she had to play.
Yeah, she had to grow up really fast before her time.
And I think that's, too, how her personality came to be.
Right.
Just kind of that responsible, like, mother person at 8 years old.
Right.
So take me back to that day. What do you remember?
Well, that day, it was around 11:30 lunchtime, and my kids were getting up from their naps. And I got them up, and Monica was anxious to go out because all the neighbor kids were outside over at Earl's house. So I got my kids ready, and we went out, and it was about noon when we got out there. And Mackenzie came over, and I had a fenced-in yard. And when they came over to play, I always made sure they played inside the fenced-in yard because I didn't like my kids running up and down the sidewalk. The Potter children were free, okay? They were allowed to practically run anywhere on that street. But they wasn't allowed to go anywhere else besides that street. And we come outside, and just like always, any other day, they were all playing, and it was around maybe 2-something, Earl come out. He had come over, and Mackenzie had asked him, can I stay the night at Tanya's with Monica? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, why don't we go ask your mom? And she said, well, my mommy, she's too busy. So I didn't even go down there. And I just told her yes. And usually I say no because of it being a school night. But since they went to the same school, it wasn't a problem for me to walk them to school that morning. But that evening, it was after supper time, and she had come back over ready to come in because I usually made my kids come in between 8 and 8:30 to get ready for school and stuff.
I want to just kind of back up and ask a couple more questions and try to see if we can put this timeline together. So it was a school day. So what time did school get out?
My kids didn't go to school that day. And I don't know if Mackenzie did or not.
She did.
Okay, well then maybe it wasn't noon. Maybe it was around 2-something because the kids would get out of school around 2:30 there, I think. So it had to have been between 2 and 3 o'clock.
Kids being kids, Mackenzie and Monica had an issue. They had a disagreement, and Tanya said, hey, it's best if you don't spend the night, Mackenzie, tonight, and said you need to go home. And I asked Tanya what happened at that point when she told Mackenzie about the change in plans.
She said, I'll just go back home. So it was about 7-ish, and I walked across the street with her and watched her walk down the sidewalk until she got close to her house, because back then it wasn't getting dark yet. And then I went back into my house. And she was a happy-go-lucky kid that day. I mean, nothing different. And she was a little sad, when she had to leave. But now to this day, I wish that, and my Monica even wishes that she didn't get upset because it tears me up every day for the last 19 years And according to my therapist, Tanya, even if you did let her stay that night, there is no telling that wasn't going to happen to her eventually.
Tanya shares another interesting detail during our conversation regarding Jennifer. And remember, Jennifer is Marianne's other daughter. Jennifer's dad, his name is Teddy, and according to Tanya, they're first cousins.
Jennifer was a sweet little girl, just reserved. And that night when all this happened, my first instinct was, oh my God, all those kids are gone. There was a little boy named Harrison and another little one with curly hair, Douglas. It was Mackenzie's little brothers and Jennifer. And I know Jennifer was there that day because she was over at my house playing with my kids. And she had already went home before Mackenzie did. And I guess that night, Jennifer got upset about something and called my cousin Teddy, her daddy, and said, come get me.
You have to wonder what happened or changed for Jennifer to call her dad and ask for him to come pick her up. Was William there? What was happening in the house?
And Mackenzie said that Jennifer, in the evening time when I sent Mackenzie home, because I'd asked her, who's going to walk you home? And that's why I had walked her halfway down the sidewalk. She said her sister was down there at her house, not Grandpa's, but Mary's house.
At
Earlier,
home.
I saw Jennifer, I believe it was Jennifer, playing with all Amber's kids.
What time did you send Mackenzie home, approximately?
Around 7-ish. It was 7:30.
So you send her home around 7:30. Mackenzie says, my sister Jennifer's there at home.
I said, who's going to walk you home, honey? Where's Jennifer and your mom? And she said, they're at home, but I'll be fine.
So she also says her mom's at home at that point.
Yes.
So you watch her, she goes home. What time did Teddy come pick up Jennifer?
That I don't know. I had found that out the next day. Her mom and that Kenny on the front porch, and I said, where's Jennifer? And they said Teddy Lee came and got her. And then it was a couple days later, we were over at Teddy Lee's house, his dad's house, my Uncle Harry, and his stepmom, Sherry. And he said that's when he told the family right there, well, he's actually telling his dad and them, well, Jennifer called me and I went and got her. And he said if he hadn't, that she would have perished too. When we were at my Uncle Harry's, he said that he was just thankful that Jennifer wasn't involved and that he was telling his dad and them that detectives or something wanted to talk to him, and he really wasn't wanting to talk to him because he said he didn't have nothing to contribute. All he knows is his kid called him and he came and got her. And that there was some sort of gas can on the front porch when he went there to get her.
So that's important though. Like that's critical.
Teddy Lee told the family when this all happened that when he went and got her, there was a gas can on the front porch. But he said gas wouldn't be in it because they heated by kerosene. But Mackenzie, the kerosene would burn her nose and stuff, and she would complain about it. So Marianne stopped using it, I'm assuming.
So we have Teddy, a first-hand witness, recalling that when he dropped Jennifer off, there was no gas can on the front porch. And then when he goes to pick up Jennifer, there is now a gas can there. We know gasoline was used to start this fire. Jennifer wanted to go home so bad that she called her dad to come pick her up. Was this the start of the planning? I have tried multiple times to contact Teddy, and he has not responded. I hope that he hears this podcast episode and realizes that he does hold a critical piece of information and to come forward.
But the next day, after all this happened, I couldn't understand. And I had went over there because everybody was gathered at Earl's the next day after this all happened. And Kenny needed pants. They were worried about their clothes burning up in this fire.
Marianne, the next day, again, are worried about clothes, but not concerned at all that their daughter just died in a fire. Clothes are replaceable, Marianne and Kenny. Mackenzie is not. Of course, as anyone would be, Tanya was concerned about the kids and asked about Jennifer, who she thought was still at the house.
I looked at him and said, where was Jennifer? Where's Jennifer? Because I couldn't talk to any of them that night. When my little boy woke up from the fire trucks, I had ran outside with him. And this was close to 2 o'clock in the morning. And all I seen was just chaos down the road. And then I seen all the Potters, their lights flipping on, they're going nuts, and they're running down there. And then that's how I instantly knew, oh my God, that's Mary Ann's house. I wasn't going to go down there because I had my boy in my arms. And my girls slept through it. So I went ahead and sent them to school. I didn't want them to really know anything yet. And I didn't think that morning the school was going to let loose that soon with these little kids. The whole school let all these little kids know about her.
I asked Tanya if she had seen William or anyone else that night of the fire.
I don't know. I only seen 2 of the boys coming out of the house. Earl's house. Of course, it was chaotic, so I was just trying to obtain what the hell was going on. I think all of us neighbors were.
William was not seen at Marianne's or Kenny's trying to help rescue Mackenzie. William was not seen running out of the house with his brothers Jamie and Jeremy. So where was William? Sounds like William was hiding. But I do also want to point out this, that Tanya saw Jamie running out of Earl's house. But when Jamie talked to Donald, he told him that the sheriff's office came to his house, which is about a mile away, woke him up. He then got dressed and headed over to Marianne's. I don't know of any sheriff's office that drives a mile away to an uncle's house to notify them of a fire. Why is Jamie having a change in his story? We'll dig more into that when we get into the investigation.
And I had went over there because I gave Kenny pants. And I said, oh my God, you guys, I'm so sorry. What happened? And where is Jennifer? She said, Teddy came and got her last night. And I guess they even got into a fight because Jennifer left. It wasn't Teddy's time. And Teddy took her anyway. Because if he hadn't, how do we know that she wouldn't have been part of that night? And then I had found out that the 2 little boys wasn't even there. And I'm like, oh my God, it's just little Mackenzie there. Because I don't recall seeing Harrison Douglas that day. But Harrison and Douglas was not there that day. I don't know where they was. I didn't know if they were down there with Mom.
They were with Donald.
And Kenny's like, I said, well, what happened? What did you try to do? And he told all of us that he took a broomstick and was hitting the ceiling so hard with it, telling Mackenzie that the house was on fire, get up, get up. And that they had ran out the front doors and that they stood there waiting on her to come down. And I remember Earl, the grandpa, saying, well, Mary Ann, the whole steps was burning down, you claimed. How was the baby going to get down there? And then he claimed that he took a ladder out of the backyard that he had and put it up by the window and was trying to get Mackenzie's attention. And then I had heard from my cousin Teddy that none of that was true.
We now have another witness who remembers Kenny and Marianne telling them how they tried to save Mackenzie. Kenny saying they used a broom on the ceiling, waiting for her to come down the stairs. This is all lies. Here's the thing, everyone. If you are telling the truth, you don't need to keep lying about what actions you did or did not do. There are so many lies that they have told based on what they know and have to change their story because it doesn't make sense.
I worked at the Dairy Queen at the time, and we were doing donations for this family. And we gave them money, but after my boss found out that they were suspects, they made us stop. And then when Mary Ann found out that I was questioning my cousin Teddy, she wouldn't talk to me anymore. And then it was just, I think maybe a day or 2 after the funeral, I got word they took off. And I'm like, wow. I visit that baby's grave more than her mother does. And I'm always telling her, I'm so sorry. I wish I would have let you stay the night with me that night, Mackenzie.
I asked Tanya if she had any investigators come talk to her since Mackenzie was at her house that day playing. And she said, no one has ever interviewed her from the sheriff's office. Since I have not been able to connect with Teddy, I asked Tanya if she had any insight into Marianne and Teddy's relationship.
I know they fought a lot because of the custody of Jennifer, and my cousin couldn't stand the way she lived. And that really took a havoc on Jennifer because, she loves her mommy and daddy. And they had a hostile relationship. And that's why he ended up leaving her.
How did he end up getting full custody? That's really hard to do.
He didn't get full custody. I don't believe he got full custody until after this fire had happened.
Jennifer lived with him, though, right?
Most of the time, yes.
I asked Tanya if she had any interactions with Kenny when he was around the kids.
Every time I encountered him over at Earl's, he was like macho. He was mean. He didn't know how to talk to little kids. He was always screaming at Mackenzie for one, and I didn't like that. Because you can't scream at a kid and expect them to respond to you. But he was bullyish to the boys.
Yeah.
Mackenzie, I know, did not like him. She said he was mean. And I told Mackenzie one time when the girls were playing together, I said, Mackenzie, honey, it seems like you've got a lot going on at home and stuff, but when you come play with the girls, if you have things that is bothering you, can you tell me and not the girls? Because they don't understand what you're saying. And she just said, okay. And now I wish that I just didn't brush all that off. I had no clue that that little girl was ever in danger.
Again, this isn't shocking. No investigators came to talk to Tanya to find out Mackenzie's movements in the last 24 hours? I asked Tanya what were her thoughts about the funeral.
I told Marianne at the funeral home, I said, I can't believe how strong you're being and holding up. Man, this wasn't even my little girl, and I don't know how you're she wasn't, I don't know why, but I never seen her cry. And it bothered me because that wasn't even my child, and I cried for days.
These interviews are so important because it tells us what was going on in Mackenzie's world in the 24 hours leading up to her murder. But as I said in the beginning of the episode, we sometimes have to go back a little further to see if there were any other signs of something more that was happening. I want to share more of my interview that I had with Jeanette, Mackenzie's best friend. I want to play the part of the interview now because I want to know if anyone else in the dog pound has firsthand information about the possibility that Mackenzie was being sex trafficked.
So, when we would hang out, it would just be me, Jennifer, my sister, and Mackenzie. But she came in the room, and she had got Mackenzie, and she had taken her somewhere, and then she brought her back.
Yeah, I want to ask about that. So was this like a sleepover or something, or what was the situation that you guys were there?
I can't remember if it's either my parents wanted us to stay there, or if we chose to stay there. I feel like it was my choice to stay there. So we was all in the room, and I remember us listening to music, and I think we were talking, but I can't remember what we were talking about. And I just remember her mom came in there and was telling her she had to come with her real quick. And Mackenzie really didn't want to go. And she didn't force her to go, but she kind of made her go. And then that's when she came back. And they came back with those very antique bracelets. I don't know where they went to, but they came back with these nice little bracelets. I've been trying to figure out what they're called or what their type name is maybe or something. But I haven't found out what type bracelets they were yet.
And so she took Mackenzie, and then what happened when Mackenzie came back? How long was she gone, do you think?
She was gone for a good minute, I feel like. She was gone for a while. And when she came back, she was just tired or she was just exhausted. She was kind of not herself.
What do you mean by kind of not herself? What does that look like?
It kind of reminds me of when the day she told me to stop hugging her because it's kind of scaring her. It was kind of like that feeling.
She told you to stop hugging her?
Yeah, because at recess, I would go up and hug her. And then around the time she passed away, she told me to stop hugging her because it was scaring her.
Did she say any more about that?
No, that's kind of the last time I talked to her.
And she allowed you to hug her before then?
Yeah, because I would go up to her at recess and hug her. And she just said I was scaring her. And she said to stop hugging her. And that was the last time I hugged her.
Aw. But prior to that point, she allowed you to hug her. She wasn't afraid. It's like kind of what you did. She was huggable.
Yeah.
And then at that point, something changed.
Yeah.
So what happened when Mackenzie was gone? It was just you, Jennifer, and your sister?
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure Douglas and I forget the other one's name. I'm pretty sure they were in the room next to us. I think we were all just playing and listening to music still until she came back.
Had Marianne ever done that before?
Not that I can remember. I just remember that time.
And then when Mackenzie came back, she was different?
Yeah, it was kind of like she was, I don't know how to explain it.
Just kind of quieter, distant. She wasn't herself?
Yeah, she was kind of distant and kind of quiet. But she brought back the bracelets, and she's the one that gave us the bracelets. But I think it was just she was tired.
So she had been gone for a while.
Yeah.
Was it late at night? Were you guys already getting ready for bed?
I'm pretty sure it was late at night.
I asked Jeanette, when did she give Mackenzie that hug when she had asked her to stop hugging her to see if it was close to the fire?
I feel like it was that weekend that I was there because the next days I went to school, I think I hugged her for like 3 days straight. I just got this weird feeling, so it made me hug her. And then I think it was the night that she went home that she passed away. I think that's why I've always been connected to her, because that night she was like, "You're scaring me, stop hugging me." And it kind of scared me. And then I woke up to my mom saying she was dead and we went to school that day. So I feel like it was around that time.
Like maybe that weekend prior?
Yeah, I feel like we were staying there that weekend. I feel like it happened on a weekday because we went to school the next day. So I feel like we stayed the night with like a Friday or Saturday maybe.
Hearing this from Jeanette really got me concerned about where Marianne took Mackenzie when her friends were spending the night. And also, why did Mackenzie's behavior change when she got back? Another thing that changed immediately when she went to go live at Marianne's was her appearance. I got on the phone with Donald to ask about Mackenzie's significant change in appearance, but also the possibility of sex trafficking.
My kid had brown hair. Mackenzie had brown hair. Beautiful, beautiful little girl. She was beautiful. The day she moved in with her mom, which was right after Christmas break, 3 days later, my daughter come to visit me at the bar, and her hair was bleached blonde. She took peroxide and bleached her hair immediately. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I saw that.
I was so pissed. I was like, what the fuck, man? Yeah. And then every time my daughter would come, dude, the way she was dressed, she already knew I didn't approve of this kind of, way of dressing my kid. You know what I'm saying? And my mom, she's in her 70s now. And that first thing she's like, I hate to tell you, but I think she was doing something with your daughter. Why would she bleach your hair? Why would she do this? And then you got Kenny as a truck driver. Of course he goes to those truck stops right there in Jeffersonville. He's a truck driver. Yeah. Probably gets on the radio. Probably knows truck drivers that'll pay good money for a little girl. I'm sorry, but I have to look at everything.
No, that's where I'm at with it. Donald shares an interaction he had with someone who first brought this up to him.
I had a guy. I went there to do a side job for them. They wanted me to look at something. And when I walked in, his wife looked at me and started crying. And I was like, ma'am, you all right? Did I do something wrong? She's like, no, you're that little girl's dad, ain't you? And I said, yes, ma'am, I am. And then he was sitting there and he's like, you're Mackenzie's father? And I said, yes. He told me that one day Vernon called him to do a plumbing job for him. He does like your main water lines. And he went there to do it. And he told Vernon that somebody told him that they knew for a fact that Mackenzie was being trafficked at the truck stops. That's what his exact word was. He said he even told Vernon himself that whoever told him, he told Vernon that person's name and said that person stated that Mackenzie was being used at the truck stops as a sexual being trafficked. And that's what other people in Jeffersonville.
I am wondering what investigation, or if any follow-up, was done from Vernon or Fayette County on this lead to rule out that Mackenzie was not being trafficked at the truck stop. We know truck stops are a hot spot for illegal activity, especially sex trafficking. The truck stop in Jeffersonville is so close to their home, and Kenny was a trucker. Is it possible this is where Marianne took Mackenzie that night away from her friends? Why did Mackenzie's appearance and her behavior towards her friends change? If you have any information regarding sex trafficking of Mackenzie or any other girls in 2006 at the Jefferson truck stop, please reach out to me. You can remain anonymous. As we move into the second part of the investigation into Mackenzie's homicide and sexual assault, I did want to put this call out for action. The fact that we have a drastic change in Mackenzie's appearance and behavior, Marianne taking Mackenzie away from her own friends during a sleepover for hours at nighttime, Mackenzie being exhausted when she got back. She was tired and distant. And then the next 3 days at school, she no longer wanted to be touched or hugged. Why? What changed in Mackenzie's life in this short span before her murder? We also now have someone who told Donald that they know for a fact Mackenzie was being sex trafficked at the truck stop. This information and person's name was shared with Vernon Stanforth. Did Vernon or his detectives follow up? Did he or his detectives say, hey, wait a minute, we now heard this information about this possibility. Did anyone hear back on those results from the sexual assault kit that was done? No. We have semen in 3 places for an 8-year-old. You are now receiving information about the possibility of sex trafficking, and yet, still, no follow-up on that sexual assault kit. You have to ask yourself, why? As we move into the second part of Season 2, I want to give an update on the upcoming episodes and schedule. Since I will be in Ohio this weekend for the protest, we will be releasing a bonus episode next week. The bonus episode is my conversation with the woman whose child Kenny beat in South Dakota. The following week is Thanksgiving, and so we will not be releasing an episode, so that way we can spend time with our family for the holiday. Regular scheduled episodes will be released on December 3rd for Big Dog and the 4th for general release. I will see you all in Ohio. Dog with a Bone is hosted by Melissa Sandberg, investigated, produced, and written by Melissa Sandberg. Additional writing by Caitlin Sandberg. Edited by Jason Sandberg. Mixed and mastered by Morrow Mixing and Mastering. Theme music by Alex Yukich. Dog with a Bone is a Sasquatch production.